What's up, YouTube? Welcome to the Bible Wisdom YouTube channel. There's no way that we are going through the tribulation just because I think a big point to make is that how would you differentiate between God's wrath happening to us and God's wrath not happening to us? And let me explain what I mean. The plagues are happening throughout the whole entire world, where some of these plagues that are to happen during the tribulation, it would affect anybody, Christian or non-Christian, living on the earth. For example, when all of the water, and not just the ocean water, but the spring water is turned to blood, that's going to affect anybody on the earth, regardless of, whether you have faith in Jesus Christ or whether you not. And so when it says that, the church is not appointed to wrath, I find it hard to believe that we would be living on the earth during the time of the tribulation and just not affected by the wrath of God. And if we're not appointed to wrath, how could we say we're not appointed to wrath if all of these plagues are happening? For example, there's a cataclysmic earthquake. Now, this is towards the end of the tribulation, but there's a cataclysmic earthquake that happens. And so, how could we say that, we wouldn't be affected by that earthquake? Now, there is the story of, how the children of Israel came out of Egypt, and, when they were in Egypt, during the plagues that were happening, the children of Israel lived in a town called Goshen, and basically none of the plagues affected the town of Goshen. But you see, in the book of Revelation, it doesn't describe, only one area that's being affected. It describes the whole world. And there are Christians throughout the whole world. Even if we were just to focus on the United States, there are Christians all across the United States. And so, how could we say it's not necessarily affected? Babe, can you turn it down a little bit? Sorry. Just a little bit. There's a movie in the background. But, anyway, how could we say that, this tribulation is not happening to us if we're still on the earth? Now, it's true that there are Christians on the earth, as far as those that get beheaded by the Antichrist, because the whole world shifts towards, anti-Semitism, but also anti-Christian. And so, I explain that from the fact that people have come to Christ later. Those are the foolish virgins that get left behind. Now, I don't know if we fully can call them foolish. I think that, there's a lot of factors that go into play, but, they just came to Christ late, and, they missed that, they're still going to heaven because the Bible says they live and reign with Christ for 1,000 years. But, I just wanted to make the point on this video that, there's no way that we're going through the tribulation, because you can't necessarily differentiate we are not appointed to wrath the verse that says that, from all the plagues that are described in the book of Revelation, where these plagues are happening and it's affecting. Hailstones don't necessarily differentiate between who's Christian and who's non-Christian. When it says 100-pound hailstones fall on people, when it says the heat scorches people, where the basically from the sun, the heat gives people third-degree burns, basically, and I doubt that the heat is going to distinguish between Christian and non-Christian. Now, not to say that none of that is possible. God could very well save us through maybe hailstones not affecting us, or maybe somehow the earthquake not affecting us. God says all things are possible for him. But sticking with what we think God will do, I don't think the book of Revelation describes that. The other point that we have to really make is that when the statement says that we are not appointed to wrath, you would think that God would somehow tell us what we should do. Jesus told the Jews back then what they should do when in Matthew 24. Remember how he was giving them advice about, hey, when you see Jerusalem surrounded by armies, you should flee to the mountains. He gave them practical advice on what to do when Jerusalem is surrounded by armies. And so, you would think that with all the plagues that are described in the book of Revelation, God would tell us, hey, this is what you need to do to survive. He would be like, you guys need to all go to this one city, and all of the Christians need to be there, or you need to store up food. Now there's a Bible verse in, I believe it might be Isaiah, or one of those prophet books, where it's kind of a statement that says, you should, if my people were wise, they would hide themselves in their home until the wrath of God is completed. And sorry to just drop a Bible verse and not have the reference in front of me, because I just remember it. But there is a statement that kind of suggests in the day of God's wrath that we should basically stay in our houses and not go out. But for 7 years to do that, to stay in our house for 7 years, it comes to a point where the Antichrist is saying that you can't buy or sell without taking the mark of the beast. And so to say that you didn't have to pay your rent or pay your mortgage, no, they're still going to be charging people for things like that. You would just have to have the mark of the beast to pay it. And so I'd highly doubt, unless your house is paid off, the only other suggestion would be to live in the woods somewhere, and have a house out there that's you don't have anyone knocking at your door or sending you a bill, or asking you to pay something for that. So that would be the only suggestion. But honestly, again, I go back to the point that you would think God would tell us to do something like that. But also you have what I guess scholars refer to as the wrath of Satan, which is basically Satan is also coming against the church. That's why you have the beheadings that are going to happen during the tribulation. And so, I really believe that there is a rapture, that if you don't want to call it the rapture, there is a catching away. I believe it does apply to the time before the tribulation happens. now there are statements that are referenced to Christians in the book of Revelation that, say that, this is the perseverance of the saints, or, this is, what the Lord's people should do. They overcame him by the blood of the Lamb and the word of their testimony. And so there are, statements that are geared towards, clearly there are Christians on the earth during the tribulation. But Jesus also said two statements that I can make. He said that you need to pray to be counted worthy to escape all the things that will happen and to stand before the Son of Man. So clearly there is something to escape, and then also we are to stand before the Son of Man. And then in Revelation 3:10, I do have the reference for that. In Revelation 3:10, chapter 3, verse 10, he says, "I will keep you from the hour of trial that is coming on the whole world." And so I think that is a clear statement, even though you could read a little bit into it and say, oh, he's just talking about that particular church, or, that particular group of Christians. I believe it's one of those type of English translations where it applies to all people. Jesus was asked the question by Peter. He was like, Lord, are you saying this to us, or are you saying this to everyone? And Jesus replied to him, even though it wasn't Revelation 3:10, but Jesus replied to him about what they were talking about. And he said, who then is the faithful and wise servant? And so, I'm jumping all over the place, but, I believe that there is an escape that we have before the tribulation. Now, I believe that you could possibly escape through the different plagues and the wrath that is coming on, the world. But the Bible doesn't necessarily, give us those exact details. If someone were to be left behind, is what I mean. If someone was left behind, but, I believe the Left Behind movies do have truth to it. And, the people that are coming out with these videos saying, oh, there's no rapture, or, they might be on a different denomination. There's a lot of different beliefs out there about Revelation. But, people saying there is no rapture, there is no escape, you would have to really ignore, Revelation 3:10. You would have to ignore Jesus's statement, in the Gospels about escaping all that will happen. Clearly there is an escape that you can be a part of. Now, I don't believe everyone is a part of this escape. Every Christian, I think, has to be counted worthy to escape. I do think, it takes your faith in Jesus Christ and to believe. But also, I think it takes, walking worthy of the cross of Christ. And, let everyone who names the name of Christ depart from iniquity. And so, that's what I wanted to share for today's video. That, when you really look at the plagues and the different things that come on the earth in Revelation, if you don't die from that, you are faced with taking the mark of the beast, and you would die from not taking the mark of the beast. And I don't think the mark of the beast is here now. I think it's a clear don't be deceived, that I think it's a clear mark of 666, or of something that prevents you from buying and selling. I don't have to show anything to buy or sell these days. I show either cash or my credit card. So don't be deceived, thinking that certain things are the mark of the beast when it's not. And plus, there are pretty huge events that happen before the mark of the beast. and there's pretty huge events that happen after that time of the mark of the beast. So, don't let the book of Revelation make you crazy, even though God is not the author of making someone crazy, but you could take things out of context. And so the important thing is to be a Christian. And we believe that, our God is the one true God that created the world. And so thanks so much for checking out this video. Hopefully it was interesting to someone, and I will talk to you on the next one. See ya.